Wow, it's very nice of him to have an idea-shaped neon light. Usually a light bulb would suffice, but as we say, the budget's better, so I need to get one of those. Oh, Coyote and your ever unpredictable trailer release times. Somehow one of my most anticipated movies of the year, and I just keep missing it. Even still, we've covered this movie along its trudging timeline all through these last few months and years, really. And no matter how much more they go to show us of this project, I can never find too many things to critique. It just looks so good. And even after seeing so much stuff, I still don't fully have a full idea of what's going on. It hasn't even spoiled us now that we're at the final trailer. And isn't that just perfect? I won't ramble to you this time about the difficult past this movie has had, both getting off the ground, being shown at film festivals, and only now coming out in a sort of spin out of a form. But instead, let's just get right into the final trailer. We've already seen the teaser, we've already seen the official, and it was constantly perfectly enthralling me. And what do you know? This one does the same. Now, there is a little bit of recapping on this trailer compared to the previous trailers. It's just the same scenes, but more extended. Even still, there's not actually a lot of old content that badly hammed into here. We still get to see the same opening of the classic cartoon in the new 3D theatrical format. But instead of jet boots this time, it's magnet hand. Okay, alright. I'll tell you what, I do think that was new in some degree. I mean, I guess it's just the general idea of we've seen the magnet before. Not sure I remember the magnet successfully pulling the Roadrunner for a bit, but actually going back to a truck, yeah, we've seen that before. But it is new-ish, fine enough. A nitpick to say this isn't good enough, you know? I'm not gonna go there. Which I don't think we've actually seen before. That's not to say that this is the most original joke of all of Coyote. Maybe they have used every single joke there is to tell in this exact environment, because the actual punchline is relatively the same. But it does come with a nice flair. And it gives us a million poses beneath the wheels. That's certainly new. That's what you get with a boosted budget to the animation. If that's not clear already from the entire aesthetic this movie has. And honestly, I'm not gonna fault the movie for that. It's probably the biggest critique there is to have. I don't think it is a critique though, really, let's be honest. But while I just said that maybe there's not the most amount of jokes left to do in that exact context anymore, that doesn't mean that they run out of new original jokes for the Coyote in a whole bunch of other ones, such as this one still set out in the middle of nowhere desert, but now with a modern twinge kind of on top. Mwah, that I adore. Yeah, this does feel like it's like a modern past his prime take, you know? That's a modern train of all things. Considering arguably this is meant to be almost like a Western era cartoon with like the logic of the train carts, you know? Very interesting. Also, I love the design of his little train car. I love the cel-shaded outlining. I love cel shading, man. Easy, makes sense, and any opportunity to give us new original things for my favorite Looney Tunes character, I'm going to praise. I love that now he has to go to the city, because now all sorts of new antics can ensue. Whether it is technically a cliche shot / movie reference that they can go with, but it fits. Like when Coyote is dangling his head out of the window on the drive into the city, I would assume.
I think everyone should be inspired by that.
Yeah, and then add a little movie reference at the end, of course. Hey, will there be lots of those? Curious. Or I guess Looney Tunes just referencing themselves a bunch. Who knows? Or how, more specifically, we can see how the same Coyote elements can still happen to the Coyote, even when he's in the middle of the court.
Just show what you got.
Of course, Coyote's gonna ensue all sorts of pain anyway. Even though he's not actively trying to set anything off, he's not trying to kill somebody, technically, in the world. He's still gonna have a bajillion buffooneries on him. Love that for him. Why is the other reference I can think of for that the Bee Movie? It's so nice to see because obviously every Looney Tunes character has such a defined category of how their humor works. You know, they all sort of have different archetypes. They'll all approach a situation differently. And I'm just enjoying the way Wily's works. It's nice to see done anew. But I think underneath sort of the classic things you expect to see from a Coyote movie, there's a lot of really interesting mechanics going underneath that leave me fascinated. If it doesn't just feel like another Looney Tunes back in action kind of scenario, modern day industry studio references and just going along with how their slice of life kind of is. If not that, then in a lot of ways it feels so very Roger Rabbit. And that's I mean, it's one of the best cartoon movies of all time, right? But what's really interesting is in some of these shots, I love what it's doing, where it seems to be blurring the lines between human and toon. It's very Roger Rabbit coded. We've already seen the likes of that, like the finale of Space Jam is Michael Jordan stretching his arm to, hit into the basketball at the end. But here as well, really interestingly, we do see a human with a cartoon pair of gloves.
Well, who cares what happens?
Now, hold on. Whoa! A human doing cartoon logic? That's the ending of a Space Jam movie right there. Who is that? Oh, he's got cartoon gloves on. Oh, man. I love just, like, the concept of this movie and what the buffoonery they're gonna throw at us. I love that. That's great. I want a whole movie of this. I assume we're getting half a movie of this, maybe a third. It's the final act, It's not going to be literally like the end of Roger Rabbit, that it's a toon disguised as a human this entire time, is it? I mean, to be fair, if that's your reference, fantastic reference to have. I could have 100 more of these, or 5 before I get bored of them. Now, if it's not just the ending of Roger Rabbit basically done, it's just not Christopher Lloyd this time. Crazy if it would be him again, you never know. It could also just be a normal human wearing the gloves, and the gloves give you that power. Again, just going into fan fiction here, but I'm curious, because that's such an interesting poke that's not actually the forefront of this story, but I think is a great bonus on top that I would have loved to have seen more in the marketing if it is doing that. We see a judge with a cartoon gavel, so in that sense, maybe it's just that. Maybe it is just an item. Or it is a toon in disguise. It's just really interesting. That's all I need to know. Tasmanian Devil's in it too. That was my second favorite Looney Tunes character as a kid. Give the judge a cell-shaded gavel and we're on our way. Genuinely, I would be curious to see more of the mixing between toons and humans. Will a human be dead? Can a human do cartoon physics? I got so many questions, and I'm so glad they're gonna probably be answered soon. Alongside that, you then have a lot of practical effects to give the cartoon effect, but with a realism tone to it, seen done to humans. You see Will Forte's hair blowing in the wind from an explosion. In this trailer as well, we see a boulder land on top of a car. Will's gonna be punched around by a couple boxing gloves here and there.
For decades!
Interesting as well that it's... Again, I'm getting into the details of this. Like, it's been going on for decades. The Looney Tunes, I guess, have always just been around in general modern times. The past Looney Tunes movies, like Back in Action, or even the Space Jam movies, they're just relevant to the modern day celebrities. But it's interesting that they have gone on for decades, and they're just kind of immortal cartoon characters that are still lingering around all these decades later. I still don't understand what happens if one of those Acme products hits a human. Can you be killed by a toon? Hey there! Thank you for making it to the halfway mark of this video. Come subscribe if you haven't already for more animated movie trailers. There'll be no more Coyote Vs ACME since this is the last one, but there will be a review day 1, and a million other animated movies are ongoing. So we'll cover those when they pop up. Thanks for joining along so far, and now to the second half of Coyote Vs ACME Final Trailer, Part 2. And they've done an Avengers level timer. I love that. Of course. Hey, I even praised the A symbol they had earlier in the last trailer reaction. Mwah. Across the board. Mwah. It's also just good to see on the human practical front that kind of slapstick physical comedy being done. It's a really interesting adaptation prompt that tries to mix the two together, all the while telling some nice meta jokes around an incredibly dry John Cena not being a fan of cartoons, really, and the antics they come with. Whether it's not finding them very funny...
This is not funny. I thought cartoons are supposed to be funny.
I love the deadpan humor from John Cena. This is great, man. I know it's gonna be great. I'm just enjoying one more preview before I actually see the damn thing. What a miracle, we actually get to see the damn thing. Or outright just calling out the way Tweety Bird speaks.
You taught? What did you teach? What did you taught?
Incredible. What an incredible little sketch in the middle of that. Oh, John Cena, he's a gem in this. I better write down August 28th if I haven't so far. I love that. Although, speaking of Tweety Bird, apparently I myself didn't even fully understand them on one of their lines because I was too busy thinking about Twitter. God, I wish I could delete that website in memory. Nice. I thought that was like a pop culture reference of like retweet, like from Twitter, because apparently I'm a bit too terminally online. But no, it means retreat. No, he means retreat. That makes more sense. And with less emphasis with Bugs Bunny, huh? They just sprinkled that out. And then never over-explained. I love that for marketing. I'm glad it's not a million spoilers in here. What a fun romp. Marketing perfected this whole way through. I would assume that this movie is a bit more simplistic than the version I'm seeing in my head with this two human mixing. A lot of it's mostly probably going to be visual gags and physical humor, and maybe that one road ripping scene is kind of a one-off, you know, it doesn't need to do much more than that. Coyote's still the main guy, let him sort of have his starring role. But at least what there is to actually digest and see with our own eyes, hopefully this movie will act to be a really solid character study of the Wile E. Coyote character and concept. There's a little extract in this trailer that seems to insinuate a little bit of that emotional side of things, if it'll hit it.
He's one of the most hardworking people I've ever met.
Okay, I'd be very curious to see how it does any of the emotional side of this story. If the, you know, I always want a movie to have emotion in it. And you can tell they're faintly doing it with the lawyer actually cares about Coyote, but it's also just a bunch of spliced lines for the trailer. And he's a lawyer.
He would never think of quitting.
But that would be really interesting. You know, these kind of movies are the best when they are a genuine character study for an old IP protagonist. Again, I'm now thinking like SpongeBob movie, you know, how that does a dissection of him. I'll be very curious to see how this movie comes out with that, what they do with that. Because otherwise, these characters are relatively two-dimensional, and only now are seemingly in 3D. Ish. I mean, they've been doing it for years, but you get the idea. And furthermore, I just went on a whole tangent when randomly seeing Roadrunner unconscious on the side of the road. That leads me to ask a question about his character and wondering how he'd interact. Hey! Okay, a couple of things. Love that little attention to detail. If they actually do that in the movie, I'll be impressed, because that kind of feels like just a trailer thing. Also, it's totally an unconscious Roadrunner on the side of the road. Oh man, that'd be weird. Imagine if, I'm just going on fan theory now. Imagine if Acme decides to give up Roadrunner and says, here, we'll give you Roadrunner on a silver platter if you leave us alone. Because that's what Coyote was always originally after. So to have that dangled in front of him, I wonder if he'll change. Wonder if they'll go there. Probably not, right? I'm just inventing fan theories at this point. If they actually adapt that in the story, incredible work. But considering we already know this is incredible work from other directors seeing this at a film festival in the past, I don't think there's any need to be concerned, and I'm not going to critique if it doesn't go in that direction, because that would just be disingenuous. Finish it off with a parody towards the Avengers, because of course you can. And to be fair, that makes sense with a character who's constantly looking at us through the camera. I've got too many questions for this. Once again, across the board, there's just nothing to complain about, because it's such a brilliant, well-oiled machine that of course David Zaslav wrote off for his taxes. If anything, that's only an accolade to insinuate that it's actually good and worthwhile. I know this movie is already going to nail on the head everything it wants to do. I'm only curious to see just what it is they fully intend to do with this IP. They've clearly got the budget, the animation could go ham, they can afford more than just a light bulb, but an entire neon sign. Wow, it's very nice of him to have an idea-shaped neon light. Usually a light bulb would suffice, but as we say, the budget's better, so I need to get one of those. And even if it's not what everyone expects, I'm at least gonna be happy and content enough to see, I don't know, tiny things like all the logos for the Acme products.
They're suing us for every Acme product.
Ooh, I like that. Every single Acme product individually. They come with their own cartoon logos. I love that stuff. Maybe this is because I'm obsessed with a game called Cell Damage, which specifically has a bunch of Acme-style items as weapons in the car combat game. But I love that. That's great. Nice detail. Interesting. And even if this movie doesn't make all the money in the world, it is 100% a great expression of art, quality, and flourish. Though I guess it would also be in character, since Wile E. Coyote doesn't seem to actually care about cash himself directly.
Acme denies all charges.
And all for $50,000? That would have been worth so much back in the Western era.
That is for you.
Oh, never mind, it was for $1 million. And they screwed that as well. They're just here for revenge. However it turns out to be, I will be there day one, absolutely enthralled come August 28th. So on that note, I'd best finally end it off there. My name's been Daz. Thank you very much for reaching the end of this video. Do tell us your thoughts on the Coyote final trailer. Can you dig anything under the surface? Do you think they're going to do any interesting human toon things? Or is it just going to be a nice standard romp and we can enjoy that all the same? I'd love to hear all of your thoughts and more, but otherwise, I shall see you all in a little bit. Cheerio!